point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 600th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and Nancy Wolf. Nancy is not here today. She's a very busy young woman, has concerns that take priority, quite frankly. This show is taken from my blog, geoharvey.com. The blog is a news aggregation blog on energy and climate change. It is posted every day with synopses and links to usually 15 articles. You can go there and click on a date to find an article that appeared on that day, or you can go to a link that is below on this in the description of this video, and that link takes you to a different site, which is a website used for developing the TV show, and it only has the synopses and the links to the articles that we're talking about. So it is easier to follow and easier to find articles on. So we're starting on Thursday, the 14th of November. Today is Thursday, the 21st of November. And we start with a picture of a 14 megawatt nacelle at Siemens Gamesa. This is from Renews. The title of the article is Siemens Gamesa debuts 14 megawatt Taiwan nacelle. Following the open of Siemens Gamesa's expanded nacelle plant in Taichung this August, the first locally assembled 14 megawatt unit in Taiwan was completed. Siemens Gamesa expanded its Taichung hub to produce the hardware designated for the 1 gigawatt Hailong offshore wind farm. If you look at that nacelle, you can see that it's really pretty big compared to the people who are below it. We will talk about this in other places during this show, but basically what's happening here is as wind farms become more common and more wind turbines are built, they're getting bigger. There are various reasons why in a wind farm a bigger turbine would be preferable, and that includes both onshore and offshore. Onshore wind turbines are generally much smaller than offshore, and this is an offshore wind farm, wind turbine at 14 megawatts. So that's that. How about that? I'm going to go on to Clean Technica. We have a picture of offshore wind turbines. The picture actually looks kind of like the turbines at the Block Island wind farm, but it's not. It's the angle among them is wrong for Block Island. I don't know where that is. The title of the article is How Big Can Offshore Wind Turbines Go? 25 megawatts and more, that's how big. Picking up on the story that we were just talking about, this particular article comes from Clean Technica. Offshore wind turbines already have a size advantage over their land-based counterparts, and it's about to get bigger. A team of researchers, spearheaded by the University of Virginia, is cooking up plans for a 25 megawatt wind turbine with a goal of 50 megawatts. Well, 25 megawatts is pretty big. It's if it isn't the biggest wind turbine out there, it's comparable. It is that's an offshore wind turbine. I should explain why wind turbines offshore can be so much bigger than wind turbines onshore. You have to be able to get the masts and the blades to the wind turbine somehow. And you cannot move a blade that's more than 100 yards long on an ordinary road. A minor curve in the road would make it impossible to stay on the road with such a long load. On a ship, it's pretty easy. Ships can be very large compared to 300 feet, 100 yards. So if you make the wind turbines blades and masts in a port, they can be transferred directly from where they are made onto the ship. And they can be taken to the wind farm, offshore wind farm, by ship. So that's a pretty easy problem. And what they're saying here is that they are hoping to be able to build wind turbines that will be as big as 50 megawatts, which is huge compared to what we have today. Onshore, as we will see, they can get pretty big compared to what they are, but the bigger they are, the harder it is to get the blades and the masts. Masts are less of a problem than blades. The harder it is to get the blades to where they're going to be attached to the turbines. So the next item that we have is this. Let me put that up. This is the Clearwater Wind Energy Center. And this is a PG&E image, PGE image. Portland General Electric is the utility. This is from Power Magazine. The title of the article is Oregon Customers Benefit from as PGE's Eastern Montana Wind Farm Helps Set Records. In its first 10 months serving PGE customers, the Clearwater Wind Energy Center contributed to new records for PGE wind generation, including helping the company produce 1 gigawatt of power from wind sources alone, and that is a milestone for the company. It's interesting to think here that this is Portland, Oregon, which is, for practical purposes, on the west coast. I think it's actually on a bay, but it's on the west coast. And the electricity from this site is being transmitted from eastern Montana across Idaho, across Oregon, and to Portland, which is a long ways. So this is as I said, it's a long way, and it's worth it to do a gigawatt of power. But it makes me wonder. You know, I think about things like this whenever I see that transmission systems are being needed. I've seen this many times as I have looked at the news. The thing that's holding up American renewable energy is transmission lines. We need transmission lines to move the energy. And for the life of me, I can't understand why. I think we should be pursuing local power, distributed power. Every state should have its own electricity. Every town should have its own microgrid. As a matter of fact, it would make things much more secure. It would save a lot of money. We wouldn't have to have transmission lines, and we could get to renewable energy earlier. And honestly, I think that the people who are behind the business of transmission are just not thinking clearly. And I'm not kidding about that, and we will get to more about that later. We are up to Friday, November 15th, and we have a picture of an airplane. This is from Clean Technica. The picture is a picture of a fuel cell powered airplane. The title is Fuel Cell Electric Aircraft Help to Drive the Green Hydrogen Market. The European Union has been working on a plan to replace liquid fossil fuels with an EU-wide lower carbon gas network, which includes stepping up the supply of green hydrogen fuel for aviation, shipping, and heavy industries. The plan was created in May, and it is already bearing fruit. I have a note here. Most hydrogen comes from natural gas or coal, but European countries are developing green hydrogen sources. Now, I think I should explain that. Hydrogen is a gas. As it is found, it consists of molecules, each with 2 hydrogen atoms. Taking hydrogen out of water takes a lot of electricity. Getting hydrogen out of methane takes a lot less electricity. The bond between the hydrogen atoms and the carbon atoms in methane is much weaker than the bond between the hydrogen atoms and the oxygen atom in water. So in the past, almost all of the hydrogen that we have had, industrial hydrogen, has been from methane or possibly from coal through various routes. And it's been fairly inexpensive, and until recently, 99% of it was done that way. Recently, however, the demand for green hydrogen has come up. More to the point, people have imagined a demand developing. The cost of electricity from renewable energy has gone down. So it's become reasonable for organizations to develop facilities for manufacturing hydrogen from water. That's called green hydrogen. And it has become more reasonable for various organizations to imagine using green hydrogen. There is a railroad in Germany that uses green hydrogen. It's something that I'm a little bit up in the air about. I don't know. But to the point of this, the idea here is, the idea of this aircraft is that it will be used with hydrogen in a fuel cell to drive it. And there are lots of problems with hydrogen. Aside from where you get it, the question is, how do you store it? As a liquid, hydrogen requires temperatures that are like more than 400 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. That's kind of cold. And it's going to boil. No matter what you do, it's going to boil. So you have to have a way for it to escape. There are good things about that. You can push the hydrogen past the motors, as we reported last week, to get the motors to turn into superconductors. But this is something that has not yet been figured out. So I'm kind of interested to see where it's going to go. Now we have another article from Clean Technica. That is a Voltari patrol boat, you see. Let me put it up. Electric patrol boat launched by Voltari. About 2 years ago, Canadian electric boat manufacturer Voltari announced it had piloted one of its Voltari 260 performance boats 96 miles on a single charge. Recently, Voltari announced that it had built a patrol vessel. Cam Heaps, Voltari's CEO, answered some questions about it for Clean Technica. You can go to the website, either of the websites that I mentioned, and take a look at this and see the interview. But basically, what's the point of this? 91 miles on a charge may not sound like a lot to people who are not accustomed to riding in boats and are accustomed to riding in cars. But 91 miles is a long ways to go in a boat. And yeah, I think it's very likely that a patrol boat could be around and not really use up 91 miles of charge in a 24-hour period. So this is it's interesting to see. This is progress. We're seeing boats, ships, airplanes being developed. Okay, I'm going to go on. We have a picture of coral. I like this picture because the coral is blue. I have not seen pictures of blue coral before, and quite frankly, I don't know that that coral actually is blue. It might be just that's what the photographer wanted to put on in a filter. This is from ABC News, American broadcast company. The title is "Climate Change Threatens More Than 40% of the World's Corals with Extinction," conservation group says. About 44% of reef-building coral species are at risk of extinction, data from the International Union of Conservation of Nature's Red List of Threatened Species shows. The Red List is a new edition released as COP29 goes on in Baku, Azerbaijan. This is something that we could talk about for a long time, but basically what's happening here is it is recognized that there is a lot of danger to coral species, that they are threatened with extinction. Scientists are trying to do all kinds of things. Breed new cultivars of coral, believe it or not, that will take more heat is one of the things they want to do. They want to do genetically modified organisms that will take more heat. They do not want to give up on coral as a reef-building organism for a number of reasons, not the least of which is they need the reefs to protect the shorelines. Another is the reefs are places where carbon dioxide is sequestered. So there are a lot of reasons to have coral. There are a lot of reasons to preserve coral. There is a lot of work going on to preserve coral. The thing that we have to do is stop putting carbon dioxide into the air. And it'll be a while before we do that from the way things look like they're going in the world in general. We're up to Saturday, November 16th. And we have a picture of a weather station tracking a supercell. This is from CNN, and the title is, "It's Not Just Democrats. Republicans are working to protect climate money." It is not just Democrats at work to protect the Inflation Reduction Act's clean energy policies. Donald Trump is out on a limb, even with his own party, as he vows to kill clean energy tax subsidies that many Republican lawmakers increasingly depend on. What is happening here is really kind of simple. When Joe Biden and his administration decided to distribute money, a lot of money from the Inflation Reduction Act and the various other acts that he did, that money was not just distributed to states that supported Democrats or Joe Biden personally. It was distributed to the states that needed it. And that included a lot of important Republican-leaning states, including Georgia, Florida, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Kansas, Iowa. These states all got, all of them, I think it's fair to say all of them got substantial amounts of money invested in their states. Factories are being built. A lot is being done to hire people to produce products and so forth. A lot of industry is being promoted in the United States, from manufacturing solar panels to manufacturing electric vehicles, manufacturing electric vehicle chargers, making a whole range of items that are used to reduce the amount of carbon that is produced and put into the atmosphere. Heat pumps, perfect example. Yeah, in Vermont, we depend on heat pumps more and more, as more and more are put in order to avoid two things, actually. One of them is paying for fossil fuels, but the other is burning fossil fuels. But where do those heat pumps come from? They could be coming from almost anywhere in the United States, preferentially to coming from abroad. A lot of things are still coming from abroad. We cannot make the products that we use. This is a big thing, and the more I see of what is manufactured in China versus what is manufactured in the United States, I can see that sometime around 2015, 2016, we really dropped the ball. And the Chinese made up for that, and they have made up to 95% of the solar panels in the world, less than that now because other countries are picking up, India being one, the United States being another. But electric buses, electric cars, heat pumps is just another example, and the list goes on and on and on. Okay, the next item, we have a picture of the president of Azerbaijan. And this article comes from CNN. This is President Ilham Aliyev, Ilham Aliyev, president of Azerbaijan. The title of this article is "Climate Leaders Were Worried Trump Would Derail Talks. They Didn't Know Their Host Would Be the Wrecking Ball." The moment the U.S. election results rolled in, climate leaders knew Donald Trump would be a blow to the COP29 talks in Baku. What they didn't foresee was the demolition job that the leader of Azerbaijan would do. I've been watching this. I'm amused by this article. I'm not amused by the fact that this particular man did the things that he did, which were not helpful. But I've been seeing over and over and over again since this article appeared several days ago, articles coming up in the news talking about how one company or another company, the Chinese, the Arabs, the whoever, had signed agreements to build something in Azerbaijan. And I think Azerbaijan has stood out as a place where renewable energy is going in really fast in the last week. So I want you to know that while this story I think is probably true, as it's reported, it really only reports half or less than half of what's going on, because a lot has been going on in Azerbaijan. They've been building solar arrays. They have been building wind farms. They've been doing everything you could imagine. The things that the president of Azerbaijan has said, they're not as important as action. Okay, we have an article from Renew Economy. We have a picture here of a PV project, offshore PV project. The title of this article is "China Floats First Gigawatt-Scale Offshore Solar Park and Completes 3 Gigawatt PV Project at an Old Coal Mine." Chinese state-owned CHN Energy has completed the installation of 2 large-scale solar PV projects. One is the world's second largest solar facility, measuring in at 3 gigawatts. 3 gigawatts is 3,000 megawatts. The facility at the landfill here in Brattleboro is 5 megawatts. This is 3,000 megawatts. The other is the first offshore solar PV project of gigawatt scale. And that is what you see there. That is a gigawatt scale PV project. And it's interesting to see that projects of this are just going ahead. We should bear in mind that more than half of renewable energy that is installed in the world is being installed in China. We could do that in the United States. There are reasons why we don't. And the reasons, by the way, are not because there are cheaper ways to do things. We are choosing to do things that are more expensive and more destructive instead of the cheaper way, which produces electricity that it costs less and is free of climate emissions. We are up to Sunday, November 17th, and we have a picture of algae and biofuel from the algae. This is an article from Clean Technica. The title is Algae Biofuel is Booming Without Help from ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil sent shivers through the algae biofuel world when it gave up on long-standing research partnership with the U.S. firm Virados last year, after it decided there were better opportunities to make money elsewhere. Maybe they dropped the ball a little too soon. What's happening here is that ExxonMobil's walked out of the biofuel research, but the biofuel research didn't really slow down, and biofuel is getting to be important. And you will notice that I'll put that back up, that beaker is titled Green Jet Fuel. Now, one of the things about jet fuel is that it's really hard to imagine getting into a plane in Boston and flying to Dublin, which is a short distance across the ocean compared to some flights like New York to Moscow, for example. The reason for this is that you have to have your plane set up so that it can carry all the energy it needs to fly. There are ways to do this that are relatively light. Aviation fuel is relatively light in terms of the amount of energy that it holds per kilogram. By comparison, batteries are relatively heavy on the basis of the amount of energy per kilogram. What that means is, if you've got a small plane, which will carry, say, 2 passengers or 4 passengers or 10 passengers, and you're going a short distance, maybe less than 100 or 200 miles, it might be worthwhile doing it with a battery. But when you're talking about a major intercontinental air flight, flying across the ocean and depending on a battery for your fuel, for your energy, is difficult. So one of the things that happens is that we have to find some other way of doing it, and biofuels is one of them. And this is algae that is grown specifically for biofuels. I don't know that algae is inedible, but you know, the tricks, we are learning the tricks that are needed to depend on algae for biofuel, and it seems to be working. So the Europeans are putting money into it, and that works. Algae has a potential to produce, this is my note, 10 to 100 times more fuel per acre than conventional energy crops. And you know, this brings up another thing too. I did a back of the envelope calculation just to find out what would happen if we used agricultural land without agrivoltaics or anything like that to produce all of our energy in the United States, or as close to it as we can get. So all of our heating, all of our transportation, all of our industrial use of energy that can be used would come from solar. And what I came to was that it would take 29 million acres, which is a lot of acres. Now, I asked myself, what would happen to our agricultural production if we did that? And I was surprised to discover pretty quickly that we would actually have an increase of almost 2 million acres of agricultural land available for growing food. And the reason for that is because we use 31 million acres for growing corn, which is used to make ethanol, which is blended into gasoline, which I think is stupid. But nevertheless, there it is. Now, according to this, 10 to 100 times as much. By the way, I sent that calculation, back of the envelope calculation, to Mark Z. Jacobson at Stanford University, and he sent me an email back that said, that's a nice, idea, but you're wrong about your calculations. He said it would actually be more than 2 million acres. It would be more like 10. But nevertheless, and because my estimate of the amount of solar panels we'd need was wrong, because I used the wrong figure for the efficiency of the panels. But he said, yes, basically we could increase the amount of agricultural land for food by 10 million acres. Here, we could probably use a small amount, for growing, not corn for ethanol, but algae for ethanol. Okay, what we're up to now is a picture of Hurricane Milton and an article from Clean Technica. The article says states can and should save climate research and weather service. This is not a joke, this is real. It's no secret that the incoming Trump administration has it out for NOAA, N-O-A-A. But it may surprise some readers that they also have a strange axe to grind with NOAA's National Weather Service, because they'd rather a private company charge people for weather alerts. This reminds me of a discussion I had with a friend where he said everything should be privatized. And I said, well, the park down the street should be privatized? Should our police department be privatized? Should the prisons be privatized? He said, yeah. I finally came to, what about the street in front of the house you live on? Should that be privatized? Should they be an organization that charges you on a month-by-month basis for your access to the street, and if you don't pay them, or if there's a mistake in your bill, they can say, sorry, you can't come out onto the street? Well, maybe not. Okay, I'm going to go on. We have a picture here of a man named Chris Wright. And this is from ABC News. What to know about Trump's Energy Secretary nominee Chris Wright? President-elect Donald Trump announced that he has nominated Chris Wright, an executive of a fracking company, who has fiercely criticized the existence of a climate crisis and the transition to renewable energy sources, to run the Department of Energy. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of notes that I've got here. One of the things that Chris Wright said was, quote, "There is no climate crisis, and we are not in the midst of an energy transition either." And he said there is no such thing as clean energy or dirty energy. I wonder what condition his lungs are in. Last year, Wright's total compensation, and I think this might have informed his opinions about energy. Wright's total compensation as the CEO of Liberty Energy was $5.6 million. That's 1 year's work, according to a recent SEC filing. So he's earning almost $500,000 a month to be able to say that there's no energy crisis, there's no such thing as clean energy. Let's just frack, baby, frack. Drill, baby, drill. And that's the standard that we've got today. We're up to Monday, November 18th. We have a battery system from ADS Tech, Ads Tech. Sorry. This is from Renews. And you can tell that those are not lead acid batteries because they don't have those caps on the top that are designed to deal with gases. Field acquires 200 megawatt UK battery. Field Energy has announced the acquisition of a 200 megawatt Hartmore battery storage project in England from Clearstone Energy. The project becomes the latest addition to Field's 11 gigawatt portfolio of battery storage projects in development and construction across Europe. The Hartmore project is to come online in 2026. I want to point out, we hear about small modular reactors. Small modular reactors, the ones I've read about, and there's a lot of different designs, they're not all the same, but the ones I've read about will respond to changes in demand. From what I can understand, the response that they have is what I would call old school. They will change their output over a matter of minutes, many minutes. So it might take 15 minutes to match demand when demand changes. That is an old problem. We know how to deal with it, but it is an old problem. When you're comparing that with batteries, the batteries can change their output so fast that it will happen in less than one cycle of AC power in many cases. This is an old-fashioned system. I'm talking about small modular reactors and saying they are old-fashioned compared to batteries, which are a lot cheaper. And the result of this is that solar power plus batteries can provide a higher quality electricity than nuclear or gas. And this is something that some utilities have already figured out. Okay, we have a picture of pollution. And this is from Power Philippines. Fossil fuels continue to keep pace with renewable energy in Southeast Asia. The Center for Energy, Ecology and Development says that while renewable energy is continuously extending in Southeast Asia, fossil fuels continue to keep pace. CEED, that's the Center for Energy, Ecology and Development, report says the region witnessed a rapid expansion in renewable energy, but fossil fuels are also being developed. There are reasons why more fossil fuels are coming online, even though renewable energy is cheaper and more reliable. And those reasons are not considered in a free market system. And they include a lot of things, including misinformation, fear of lost assets, and so forth. Fossil fuels are being developed for what would be considered in a free market system bad reasons. However, there's no such thing as a bad reason in a free market system. At least that's what I've been told. The reason is exclusively monetary. But what I'm seeing is monetary doesn't make it. Monetary is insufficient to explain some of the things that are going on. And I think that we have to be ready for that. All right, let's get away from this. We have a picture of a Rivian R1T. And this is from ABC News, American Broadcast Company. The 3-row electric vehicles are so in demand. Why they are so in demand. What could really move the needle on electric vehicle sales? three-row SUVs and minivans, some industry experts say. The market for a three-row electric SUV has been limited up until now, and Tesla's Model X has had complaints for its cramped rear seating. More models are coming soon. Well, that Rivian is an SUV, and it has a lot of space. And I want to point out, a lot of electric car companies are growing. Tesla is not growing right now, and I think that's just worth noting. Tesla may be a huge car company in terms of market value, but I don't know that I hold out a lot of hope for it to grow the way that it should. Honestly, I think Elon Musk is a genius, but like a lot of geniuses, he's so convinced of his own mental ability that it's difficult for him to reason through a good approach. And so he makes bad decisions. That's my opinion. Okay, we're up to Tuesday, November 19th. We have a picture of a big wind turbine. This is a big wind turbine. This is from Renews. Sany's 15 megawatt onshore turbine powers up. I told you this was coming. Other things have come too. Sany Renewable Energies independently designed, I'll read it, SI-270-150, a 15 megawatt onshore wind turbine has successfully achieved operation at rated power. This turbine has produced 15 megawatts of power. This is a flagship product in the 12x to 16x megawatt onshore and offshore platform. The SI-270-150 boasts a rotor diameter, this explains the 270-150, of 270 meters. Okay, 90 meters is a football field. This is 3 times that. The distance across its blades is 270 meters, and a lifespan of 25 to 30 years. 270 meters, 150 is 15.0 megawatts. This is an onshore turbine, although it sounds like it would be used for offshore too. This is huge. This is not going to go everywhere. It can't go everywhere. You can't get it everywhere. There isn't a way to do it, at least not legally. Okay. I'm going to deal with the fact that my mouse just died. There we go. We have a picture of a wind farm in Greece. This is from the BBC. The title is, "How is the world doing on tackling climate change?" Question mark. You want to guess? Last year at the COP28 meeting, countries agreed to, quote, transition away from fossil fuels in energy systems, end quote. Nevertheless, fossil fuel use is still rising, despite positive steps by some countries, including the UK, and by the EU to wean themselves off energy systems that do the most to heat the planet up. Well, I'm going to tell you, I think that there are more reasons why the UK and the EU are moving away from fossil fuels than climate change. And if it were just climate change, I think they would be doing it a lot slower. A lot of the reason they are moving away from fossil fuels is security, because the Russians invaded Ukraine, and the British and the Europeans don't want to reward Russia for invading the Ukraine, so they are acting out of that concern. Okay, I'm going to go on. I have a funny picture here. This picture was the result of I'm being a little bit slow here because my mouse doesn't work. This article is from Clean Technica, and the picture is what I found when I went looking for a photograph of a farm. And I liked this rooster enough that I thought it would be nice to share it. The title of the article is Financial Investments in Smallholder Farmers Are Big Talk at UN Climate Change Conference. This is the conference in Baku, Azerbaijan. An estimated 28 to 31% of world crop production and 30 to 34% of food are produced by 600 million smallholder farmers who work less than 2 hectares. That's 2 hectares is a little bit less than 5 acres of land each, combining to 24% of all farmland. Their finances are being considered at COP29. Yeah, their finances are being considered at COP29, and truthfully, we have to consider their finances in just about everything that we do, because they are feeding us. The difference between having 100% of the food and what are they getting? 30 to 34% of the food? The difference between 100% of the food and 66 to 70% of the food is the difference between people eating and people starving. And these smallholder farmers have to be considered. And if we just consider large companies and you know, the large farms, we're going to ignore them, and we can't do that. We can't ignore them in the United States. I think people in Vermont are more sensitive to this than people in other parts of the United States. But truthfully, we have to consider this. I also read about a year ago, and I don't remember where I read it, I wish I did, that something over 40% of adults wish that they were working in a place where they got their hands dirty. By which I mean they get their hands into the dirt, into the earth. They want to work outdoors. They want to work with food or with other crops that are grown. And I absolutely appreciate that. And I think that it would be very nice to take that into account when we're planning our the way our economy works. Okay, we are up to Wednesday, November 20th. We have an item from ABC News. We have 2 items right in a row that deal with weather. These are clouds. That's all they are, just clouds from NOAA. Why cloud seeding cannot make or control the weather. This is a standard news item, and I thought I would include this. Meteorology may have come a long way since its inception, but it is not possible for anyone, whether government, scientists, or billionaires, to control the weather, according to weather experts. We might get in a 10% increase in local rain by seeding clouds, but creating or even steering hurricanes is another thing. I want to point out that when I was young, I worked in chemical plants, and one of the things that I made was silver iodide, which was used for seeding clouds. And we'd make, a ton of this at a time. And it would be very likely to be sold to the Navy or somebody like that. A ton of silver iodide goes a long way in cloud seeding. You would not see it, by the way, if it were dropped out of an airplane at high altitude for a variety of reasons, one of which is they don't seed blue skies with the idea of causing rain, because there's got to be haze there at a minimum, thick haze, overcast almost, to have enough moisture in the air to attract the moisture into droplets. Another thing is, if you drop things into a blue sky, they can stay in the air if they're fine, which silver iodide is for cloud seeding. They can stay in the air for perhaps a year, perhaps longer. It's going to take a long time for it to come out. And during that time, it's going to go around and around and around the world. You have no idea where it's going to come down. So, you know, I know that there are people who say that there are people dumping things out of airplanes, and maybe there are. I don't know. But cloud seeding, I just don't see it controlling the weather. And I don't see the ability to control the weather the way they say in this article. Now, there are people who want to do geoengineering by dropping things like sulfur dioxide out of planes, which I think is a really bad idea. I could possibly get behind titanium dioxide, but boy, I'd want to see a lot of it. Titanium dioxide, by the way, is very interesting stuff. It is used for pigment. It is used as a pigment that is dusted on to a surface so that the pigment is actually exposed to the air in places where there is pollution, because it reduces pollution in the presence of ultraviolet light. It is used to color things, especially if you want things to kind of be brighter than white in sunshine. So it'll get mixed in with laundry detergent to make it bright. It will get mixed in with confectioner's sugar for making donuts, because the donuts should look white. This is one of the things they do, and I think that it might be useful to use it, but nevertheless, maybe it wouldn't. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next item. We have a picture of a cloudburst, and this is from CNN. And the title here is "A once-in-a-decade bomb cyclone is taking shape off the west coast." This is yesterday, or the day before it was happening. Yesterday it was reported. Today it was in the news again because the bomb cyclone had hit the coast and had killed at least 1 or 2 people. A powerful bomb cyclone will combine with an atmospheric river to unleash over a month's worth of rain, hurricane-force wind gusts, and feet of mountain snow to parts of the Pacific Northwest and Northern California. Power surges already affect 400,000 customers. And the news today made it clear that this was happening in California, north of San Francisco, not so much in Oregon, but certainly in Washington State, and then on into British Columbia. So this is a problem that is something that happens, and it's happened over and over again, as climate change has not just caused droughts, it's also caused water to evaporate in the ocean, get into higher concentrations in the sky, in the air, which allows huge amounts of rain to fall. This is a real problem. And now our last story. This is a picture. Sorry about this. I'm having a little difficulty. Here we go. Picture of a Cherry A5. Cherry is C-H-E-R-Y. This article is from Clean Technica, and the title is "Cherry Claims to Have 1 gigawatt-hour solid-state battery production line." Chinese automaker Cherry claims to have a 1 gigawatt-hour level solid-state battery production line under development in Wuhu, Anhui Province. It is developing the plant jointly with Anhui Anhua New Energy Company Limited and the Woohoo Economic and Technological Development Zone. Now, what's happening here is that solid state is an entirely different kind of thing than lithium ion. It doesn't have a liquid in it. It is just like a piece of plastic or something, except that it can operate as a battery. There are a number of things about it that make it better than lithium oxide or a variety of other things, but it means a solid step forward in automotive production. And Chery has said that it's got a gigawatt-hour solid-state battery production line. A gigawatt-hour solid-state battery production line means if you're building big batteries for cars, which might be 100 kilowatt hours, a megawatt hour is going to be 10 of those. A gigawatt hour is going to be 10,000 of them. So they would be able to produce, apparently, about 10,000 automotive battery systems per year in this one plant. And if the plant works and the battery systems work, they're going to be moving into a more productive system in which they are going to be making more batteries in the not too distant future. And you can bet if they do it, everybody else is going to do it too. So we may have a more productive way of doing things that doesn't involve lithium. And we have a final wish for you. That is, have a mystifyingly beautiful week. So I'm going to wave goodbye. We had I think a good show for our 600th show. Thank you for joining us on this momentous occasion, which is no more momentous than any other show, but you know, it's nice to say things once in a while that pat yourself on the back. So I do hope that you have a beautiful week, mystifyingly beautiful week, and I hope you'll come back. So bye-bye.